And it's that fear factor because, I mean, obviously I've taken my lumps and gotten lost and had crazy stuff happen to me that I'm just like, am I going to die? Please, it'd be great if I didn't die because I have so much to do. Like, you know.
On this episode of the Woman Angler and Adventurer podcast, I have a great chat with Carrie Zylka, host of the award-winning Hunt, Fish, Travel podcast. She's not afraid to get out there and hunt solo, which as a female, that's not something you find every day. She finds it exhilarating and a major confidence booster. And she's experienced some amazing things because of it. If you like what you hear, please help support the show by leaving a rating and review on iTunes. And don't forget to check out the show notes at anglerstyle.com/19 for photos and links. Now sit back and enjoy.
Welcome to the Woman Angler and Adventurer podcast, inspiring real women with a passion for fishing and the outdoors to go get their adventure on. Now, here's your fearless host, Angie Scott.
Carrie, welcome to the Woman Angler and Adventurer podcast. You have, as far as I know, the longest running female hosted outdoors related podcast, which is called Hunt, Fish, Travel. Is that correct? Do you know of any others out there that, I mean, you started back in, I guess it was May of 2012?
Well, actually I started in the podcasting industry in the summer of 2007.
Oh, wow.
But I launched my own. There have been outdoor related podcasts before me. I'm the first female hosted hunting podcast, though. That's the only claim I can really make.
Well, that's pretty awesome. So you're a pioneer.
Yeah.
I mean, podcasting has come such a long way since since it started, obviously, but even since you got into it, and
yes.
Really, it's just really started blowing up. Like right now, it's getting insane.
Yes.
It's like everybody you know has a podcast. So
it is crazy.
Yeah,
the difference between 10 years ago and today, just insane.
Yeah, so I think it's really cool that you got into it so early on and have kept it going, which is not an easy thing to do either because it takes
right.
a lot of work and dedication to keep a podcast going. There's so many out there, even when I was researching for mine, that come up still in the top search results that haven't put an episode out in, 7 years or, it's crazy. Yeah. So kudos to you for keeping it going too. So how did you get into it initially? And like what made you decide to start the Hunt, Fish, Travel podcast?
Well, I was like, I swear to you, I was probably one of the first like iTunes subscribers ever. I've always had a really long commute, 2-hour round trip commute every day. So when podcasts hit the scene, I was super excited. I like talk radio and I like the outdoors. And I was like, what? Hunting podcasts? This is great. And Mike Adams, the host of the Up North Journal, one of the very first, we call him the grandfather of the outdoor podcast, because I would be willing to bet he was in one of the first three outdoor podcasts out there. He had turned me on to a show called Bowcast, which is a Western hunting, bow hunting, archery resource. I was trying to make the transition from a rifle hunter into bow hunting, and they had an amazing podcast, super technical, lots of really good information. And I was going to go to an outdoor conference, and I wanted to wear a Bowcast t-shirt. I kind of sent them I'll be honest with you, it was a really snotty, bitchy email to them. Like, I'm really annoyed at the fact that all you guys have hoodies and you don't have any female t-shirts. I'm like, I want to represent you guys. And one of the hosts was like, emailed me back. He's like, we should talk. What is your story again? So I came on as a blogger, and then made the transition with the behind the scenes stuff. So I learned how to publish metadata and edit podcast episodes before I ever even thought about being a host of my own.
Yeah.
which was, in my opinion, really kind of the way to do it because I learned what to do, what not to do. They were already pioneers in the field, and so then they went through some restructuring, and it was just I just kind of outgrown what I was doing and decided to start my own.
Mm-hmm.
So it actually started out as the Wild World of Carrie Z because I didn't know what it was gonna be. It was just me talking to myself, basically. About my outdoor adventures and reading my blog posts. Yeah. And then it kind of evolved into Hunt, Fish, Travel as it gained traction. And I started learning a little more about SEO and, how important it was to brand yourself. And Hunt, Fish, Travel was rebranded. And then it really took off.
Awesome.
So, yeah, it's been a fun ride.
Did they encourage you when you decided to go out on your own, or what was that process like?
It was kind of, we didn't leave on exactly the best of terms. So it was, I just felt like I had outgrown them. They felt like I hadn't. And I'm sure we've all done it when we see another hunting or fishing podcast pop up. You're like, oh, of course you started a podcast. Who hasn't started a podcast? Well, that was already the attitude back then.
Wow. Okay.
And it was, I think, and I'm guilty of it too. I think we all are like, well, we'll see how long that lasts. Well,
right.
Here I am, how many years later? Still going strong.
Well, that's awesome. When I first started this podcast, I started it off as, it was called It Pays to Fish, and my initial goal was to encourage people out there who are maybe like looking for a career change, who just have like a huge passion for fishing, and like interview people who are actually making a living in the industry at all different aspects of it. And it could be like a YouTube channel or an actual guide or a professional angler, but try to like think outside the box too. But then I had done an episode with a lady angler up in Wisconsin. I don't know if you know Barb Carey.
I love Barb.
Yeah, and she's awesome. And so I interviewed her for one of the episodes, and that was the one where I got the most like interaction and excitement. And I was like, maybe I need to shift my focus here. And there weren't any real just woman fishing podcasts that I could find. And so that's kind of the direction I decided to take it in. So
that's great.
Yeah. So you mentioned SEO, and now it's getting even crazier with, I don't know if you've gotten your podcast on like Alexa or anything like that, but
working on it, yeah.
Yeah, so now, but
keeping up with everything.
Exactly, and then and now there's the whole that I was listening to another podcast today about podcasting, where one of the tips was like you got to be really careful with what you name your podcast, so that when you ask Alexa, or people ask Alexa to play it, she's not thinking you're doing something else. Like the example was, there's a podcast called Due by Friday. Well, when you ask Alexa to play Due by Friday, she's not sure if you're like trying to create a task or
right.
So it's just super interesting how technology keeps evolving and makes us change like kind of what we're doing too. So
it is. Yeah. And that's exactly why I rebranded, because let's face it, nobody searches for Carrie Z, all one word. Half people would, it would be Carrie space Z or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
So it was just, it's like, yeah, let's be a little smarter about this. I'm not Joe Rogan here.
Yeah. And I just realized like I need to work on the titles of my episodes, because I'll usually put the person's name in the title, the person that I'm interviewing, and then, try to include some keywords there as well. But a lot of the people that I interview aren't like super well known, so people aren't searching for them specifically. Right. Like they're more searching for like topics and things like that. So yeah, so much to think about and so much work. So
it's crazy.
So what's motivated you? Obviously, to do it for this long, you've had to get some benefits out of it, or you wouldn't keep doing it because of the amount of work and time that it takes. So what have been some of the biggest benefits that have come from that for you?
There's been a lot of benefits. I sometimes, I, s- and I, and I've said this in episodes in the past where I kind of struggle. Sometimes I get real burnt out because I host 3 shows in
Yeah.
completely different industries. So it's a lot. And hunting and fishing is really my true passion. I don't want to have a career in it. I don't want to make $1 million. Personally, I just want to make enough money so that all these out of state tags, which are ridiculous, and any gear I need to purchase doesn't come out of my regular day job funds.
Right.
And the fact that I just wanted to be, I originally thought about, obviously, with my experience in the podcasting realm, it made sense to start one. But I originally started the podcast because everybody and their brother has a blog, and getting people to talk to you as a blogger was a lot harder than getting them to talk to you and give you the time of day if you were a podcaster. I just wanted to be a better hunter. I wanted to learn how to fish for walleyes better. I wanted to learn how to make a rub or whatever. There's that episode I did on how to call in a moose. Like, he literally walked me through making the moose call. It's the most ridiculous episode ever. But how do you do that in a blog post?
Right.
So the benefits have definitely been the education, the time that people are willing to give you. I think it's a unique medium. It's a unique platform, and it has a lot of value. When you're driving, you don't have to watch a YouTube video or try to read words in a blog post. You can listen, you can work out, you can clean your house, you can drive to work, you can be at work if you're doing data entry and it's mindless busy work.
Right.
Whatever the case may be, I just feel like, for me, and I'm not a video person, like, don't get me in front of I get so nervous. I am a podcaster. Audio is my thing,
Yep.
And just as far as benefits, it's just been the connections that I've made, the knowledge that I've gained. And there have been times where I've gone back and listened to episodes that I did with other people come deer hunting season. There are some amazing, just killer episodes, and the amount of information that these guys are throwing at you, there's no way you can take it all in one episode. So really it's just been the educational part and the networking and the cool people I get to meet.
That's great. Yeah, it sounds like you kind of made the podcast something that you specifically want to listen to, so kind of like use it to your own, specific wants, and then that translates, because if you want it, you're looking for that information, there's somebody else out there who's also looking for that same information. So
right,
that's really cool.
Yeah.
So obviously you're huge into hunting, and I find it so freaking cool that you're not afraid to get out there and just go hunt by yourself, even places you've never been before. I don't think there's a ton of women out there who do that, and I don't know, have you run into any other women who are just gung-ho like that and go out there and do it by themselves?
There are a few. Obviously, we're the minority. Well, and fishing too, fishing or hunting. A lot of people don't have, a lot of women don't have the self-confidence that it takes to just, and it's that fear factor, because, I mean, obviously I've taken my lumps and gotten lost and had crazy stuff happen to me that I'm just like, am I going to die? Please, it'd be great if I didn't die, because I have so much to do. But I don't, my family has always been that way. My dad was always the adventurer. My mom is fearless. And there are some out there, but we really are kind of few and far between. But there's that sisterhood. And sometimes I feel like and please make no mistake, I am not trying to motivate anybody. I'm not trying to be one of these influencers. But sometimes I think people see me doing it and being very transparent about, yeah, I totally got lost in that canyon overnight in a rainstorm, and it sucked. It sucked so much. But I lived through it, and I survived, and I came out on the other end like, okay, kind of feel like a badass here.
Yeah, totally.
And I think sometimes people see that and think, oh, you know what? I could probably do that too. I could go out and go hunting by myself.
Yeah. What's like one of the craziest experiences you've had?
Oh my God, by far is that South Dakota trip. The debacle that was my South Dakota trip. And it was just stupidity. you don't realize how much you rely on your smartphone these days until the battery dies and it
Right.
gets real dark real quick and you have no light and you have no water or shelter and you're like, oh, I'll just spend the night out here. How bad can it be? And then you hear the thunder off in the
Oh
distance and
wow.
you're like, oh crap, it's so gonna rain on me.
That was fairly recent, right?
That was in 2015.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
14,
Was
maybe 14. It was a couple of years ago.
Okay, gotcha. I was skipping through some of your episodes, so I don't know if you covered that on one of your episodes, but one of the ones recently, I thought you're in the Black Hills.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
Another trip where I'm like, so I'm gonna go out there by myself. I'm gonna get me my Miriam, blah blah blah. It like rained, it stormed, it was foggy, pea soup fog the entire time. It's like seriously, I mean really. But it's still fun. And sometimes those are the best stories. Like when I tell the people the debacle, literally that's what it's titled, or my Hail Mary turkey hunt. Like, I mean, those are just, even though they're insane and in that moment you're fighting tears and you're trying not to get discouraged, when it's all said and done, and it just boosts your confidence because you're like, well, I can survive that. I can probably survive anything. I mean, I didn't get like trampled by buffalo and I didn't get bitten by poisonous spiders or whatever, like I didn't fall and break a leg, and you just figure it out. And I think sometimes after you go through a couple of being out by yourselves, and not necessarily bad experiences, but just spending a couple days out there hunting or fishing by yourself and getting it done and figuring it out, and if stuff happens, you figure it out.
Yep.
And it's a confidence builder.
Yeah, I had a little bit of a similar situation where I had fairly recently gotten my first boat and I'd taken it out fishing, and I decided to venture out onto the other side of the lake that I had never really been to before. And so I had my GPS, my Navionics on my phone, and I actually had a portable charger too, just in case like my phone would die or whatever. And I was out there until after dark, and I was like, oh, I better get back in. Well, of course, my phone died, and so I didn't have my Navionics. Well, I plugged it up with the charger, but it was going to take it quite a while before it had enough juice to where I could power it up and get my Navionics back up again. So I decided just to try and get back on my own. And I was like utterly lost. Like, I went between these two islands, and I guess I wasn't paying attention to my depth finder in like my panic, totally hit bottom, destroyed my prop.
Oh no.
Yeah, but luckily like it wasn't that bad to where it wouldn't operate anymore, so I was still able to like move forward,
Limp home.
Yeah. So I found I saw off in the distance this boat that was like all lit up, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go over there, and these two guys are fishing, and I'm kind of like, if you can just point me to the bridge, I can get back the rest of the way from there. And so they told me which direction the bridge was, and finally my phone also, once I got past that, my phone powered up and I was able to get back. But that was pretty scary.
It is scary. You don't realize it, and it's getting dark. What's going to happen? Is water levels going to rise? Like you said, like am I going to bottom out or get stuck and not be able to get, what the heck? But when you got back, even though you were like, man, what the heck? You're like, I'm awesome. I totally rocked that. I totally figured it out, and I didn't need nobody's help.
Yep. Well, I was going to ask you, so one of the things I was going to ask you is like, what's one of your most favorite moments in your outdoor pursuits? And listening to you talk, I almost wonder if maybe like your scariest moments become your favorite moments because you persevered through it.
There have been, that is true because I take it in, and I've always been one, and, not to get like super TMI, but I'd had a hysterectomy a year before that happened, a very bad one, where I was out of commission for like 3 months, and it was almost a year to the day of my surgery that this happened.
Wow.
And it was just kind of like you just feel good about yourself surviving that stuff, even though I was like, for the next 2 days, I couldn't barely move because I was so sore. I'd walked all night because it was raining. It was trying not to get hypothermia. So I was just trying to move. And sometimes those stories, even though I hate them with every ounce in my body, they are some of my favorite ones. And the ones where, like, I don't know if you listen to the episode, it's called the Hail Mary Turkey Hunt.
Yes.
And that one it's my favorite. It's my favorite story ever of hunting to tell. And it's because it was so last minute and it was just crazy. And, you know, it took me forever to crawl through that ditch to even get to that shot. And it was like trying to be patient, which I am not a patient person at all. And it was just like I felt a sense of accomplishment when I got my bird. And sometimes those stories really do stick out better. Mm-hmm. But then again, there's too, like just recently, I did one of those overnight fishing barge trips where like he came and picked me up at 6:00 at night, took me out to the fishing barge, dropped me off with a bunch of guys I never met before by myself, you know, and then drove away and said, see you in the morning, you know, like, which, yeah, it's, you know, you're like, okay, is this going to be a problem? I am a female. It doesn't matter if you're young, old, overweight, skinny, whatever. You're a female with 20 guys that you don't know who are drinking. Could be, you know, it can be a scary situation. But they were the nicest guys. I had so much fun. I only caught one fish, but I still had a blast. It was fun being out there on the barge. And, you know, I don't know. I just went out and did my thing, and there's nobody to tell you you're doing it wrong. There's nobody to tell you how to do it. You figure it out on your own. You might be doing it wrong, but you end up figuring out how to do it right. Otherwise, you're just not successful, you know, and sometimes figuring it out on your own is just a confidence builder.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely. It doesn't sound like you really let anything hold you back, but have you had any unfortunate experiences being a female hunting, fishing in such a male-dominated sport?
I have. Unfortunately, I have. And I've never been attacked or anything, but I mean, just being in the industry, you get a lot of the, I don't have time for little girls type attitude, which cracks me up because I'm like, please, I could probably outfish and outhunt and outshoot you. But there haven't been too many really bad experiences, but there have been some sketchy situations that I had to do some quick talking out of, or even situations where I'm like, oh my gosh, I have a hunting podcast. Like, I don't know about guns. Why do I not have my concealed carry so I can have my gun in this restaurant where these 3 guys are literally talking about gang raping me in the parking lot? I'm such an idiot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
like really, and being like really loud and blatant about it to the point where the other patrons are like, you need to not leave by yourself.
Right. Wow.
And you know what I mean? And I'm like, oh my gosh, how do I not have a gun on me? You know? Like, really?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't think any different than any other person, but for the most part, with all the hunting that I do out by myself, I literally have had so many more positive experiences. Whether it's even just the guys out on public land who are like, oh my gosh, you're a girl and you're hunting by yourself, and they think that's so cool. They think you're a unicorn, you know? And they're like, well, we're going to go over here just to let you know. So if you want to head that way, maybe we'll kick something up towards you or whatever. Yeah. So I've had so many positive experiences hunting by myself and running into people, way more than the negative ones.
Awesome. That's great to hear.
Yeah.
What advice would you have for the young girls or women out there who want to pursue hunting or fishing, just haven't had the confidence to go for it or don't know where to start?
My best piece of advice is literally just do it. Because you got to remember, daddy, brother, boyfriend, husband, they're not there to make fun of you. They're not there to laugh at you if you do something wrong. They're not there to tell you you're doing it wrong. They're not there to snatch it out of your hands and just be like, oh, just let me do it. You know, you can just go out there, put on your headphones, listen to Spotify, just fish or just go hunting. Take your rifle. Nobody's going to bother you. Nobody's going to gang rape you, I promise. You'll be fine. You know, and I think that honestly is probably one of the biggest fears that women have. Being a female going out there, you're going to encounter guys, and it can be a little scary. I believe in humanity because, like I said, I've had more positive experiences. Just do it. Just go out there once and see if you like it. You might not like it. You might be a social kitty cat, and that's fine. But just give it a shot. Just try it. You'd be surprised.
That's awesome. That's great advice. And I'll encourage all the listeners out there to go check out your podcast. And I'll share links to everything in the show notes. I'll have you send me, you have a website and social media accounts that people can follow you on?
Sure do.
Awesome.
You just Google my name, Carrie Zylka, Carriezylk. All my social media accounts come up. Okay. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, whatever. Hunt, Fish, Travel.
Awesome. Well, I'll put links to those in the show notes to make it easier for people too. Thank you so much for coming on, and I'm sure people will find inspiration from you and you're kind of unabashed, just going out there and getting after it. That's awesome.
Well, thank you for having me on. I was flattered that you would ask me to be a guest on your show.
My pleasure. That wraps up this edition of the Woman Angler and Adventurer podcast. Reminder to check out the show notes at anglerstyle.com/19. And you'll be able to see photos and links to Carrie's podcasts, including her Hunt, Fish, Travel podcast, which you should really check out. Also, jump on Facebook and join our Woman Angler and Adventurer Facebook group. We're looking to build that into an amazing community of women with a passion for fishing, hunting, and other outdoor adventures. Until next time, stay safe, everyone.